Hey guys, welcome back to Allison Customs Project Car TV. Today I am trying to get most, if not all, of the electrical components for the car laid out in roughly the area they would be in.
Welcome back to Allison Customs Project Car TV. I'm Jeff Allison, and thank you for watching.
Trying to get most, if not all, of the electrical components for the car laid out in roughly the area they would be in, so that I can begin designing a wiring harness. And you know, to do that, you got to know everything that's got to go in here. So, slowly adding all these components. I still have quite a few more in storage, though they'll keep getting added in. And as we do that, we'll continue to kind of build the car. So we've got the headlights up front there, cooling fans all the way back to the box in the very back there. The white one is the taillights, they're LEDs. So just keep laying everything out, trying to make sure we have all the components here. If we're missing anything, we check and see if it's been ordered, and if it was, if we're missing it or just what. So that's my process. So you'll see me coming and going in the picture here, and I'm just going to keep laying out parts until I've caught them all up. Alright, so I think that is, I think that's all of the components. There are a few big bulky items that I didn't lay down here. Obviously the steering column's not laying here, even though it's got switches in it. An example would be this bag is kind of representing the air conditioner and heater box. But we have stereo, we have a push button start system, we have a couple of decoded digital items for converting signals to stuff we need. And then most of the wiring, short of the engine harness itself, which came with the engine from GM, most of the wiring is laying out here, and a lot of the small components, these all come from Ron Francis Wiring, and they came on board as a sponsor for this car. So as some of you know, the plan is to have the car in SEMA 2018, which is about 6 months away. And I guess really it's about 5 months away. Anyway, so all of this has to go in the car. Much of it's been test fit before or already in the car. Some of it has not, just because it, like the stereo, we put in a cage into the dash and we knew that it would fit. Things like the heater and air conditioning box have been mounted, but the wiring has never been strung up to it. Anyway, the reason I brought up Ron Francis Wiring is because I wanted to show you some of their components. I think that are really cool. They're really going to make the wiring of all of this, simplify it up some for us. So I'm going to take the camera off the tripod and try and show you some of the different components and talk about them a little bit. Alright, so we're going to start at the front of the car here. And we have headlights that are, originally we were going to do HID, but they're actually going to be LED headlights. We have spowl fans. Haven't decided whether I'm going to use this item or not yet, but it's an electric license plate, front license plate. So in a lot of states and in Canada, where this car is going, front license plate is required. So, but we all know they're kind of ugly, so that would give us a way to put it out, but when you park the car, it would tuck away. So that we'll see if that's going to work with our bumper plan as we come to that. We have some vintage air. These are part of the air conditioning components, pressure switches, and then these are some of the Ron Francis parts. This is these are both. This is a power block with circuit breakers, and this is a 4 circuit breaker kit. I'm not sure which one we're going to need right away, but the idea there is that you have high amperage draws with the fans, so you can run them through these circuit breakers, and then they will reset themselves. If they trip off, they'll as soon as they cool off, they'll trip back on. This is part of the electronics. It's cameras. This car has a backup camera, cameras under each mirror, and then some front cameras. So all of that wires into the stereo. Oxygen sensors that came with the engine. So Ron Francis, part of their wiring kit includes wires for the alternator, headlights, taillights, dimmer switch. This is a wiper motor out of a Jeep Cherokee that I basically built new arms and stuff, and it all hides in the cowl. We have an AccuSump, which is a oil pressure sump system. If we lose oil pressure, it starts pumping oil into the system. Basically, the idea is for high G loads, or if you wanted to use it like after winter, you were going to have the car parked for months on end, then you could activate that, and nitrogen charges the bottle, and it'd force oil through all the galleys to bring the oil pressure up before you started it. More wiring from Ron Francis for the turn signals, brake switches, the other oxygen sensor. Coming back this way, electronic throttle pedal controller, LED flashers, brake switch, amber lights, LEDs for probably going to use those for something like the check engine light. Ron Francis supplied us with a headlight switch, even though probably in our case the customer, showed you these a long time ago, the customer designed his own switches that we're going to be using in the system, and they'll be mounted either in the dash or the center console. So we have a bunch of these. We have a cruise control system from Dakota Digital, and door lock actuators. These are SPAL again. So they're just an electric solenoid and controller for those. Camera for the mirror, LED for the alarm. So there's LED flashers, so the no-load flashers, brake switch from Ron Francis wiring. More wires just for the accessories, and mostly to plug into the steering column and the ignition switch. Coming back a little further, we have a Ron Francis wiper switch control, which lets you control a wiper motor that can handle multiple speeds, and it adds delay and other features to it. We have some power plug receptacles, so you can get 12 volts in the center console. We have another Dakota Digital item, which is the controller for the vintage air system. And then we have, like I said, some of these switches that the owner built or designed. So this is going to be his headlight switch. I guess the owl is supposed to be able to see at night. And we have that for the AccuSump and stereo, the subwoofers, and all that kind of stuff. Ron Francis supplied us with a third brake light, so that'll go. Not sure yet whether we're going to put it at the top or the bottom of the rear window. A little further, this matches on both sides. We have like a 6-way electric seat bracket, and then over here we have front and quarter window power window regulators. So again, all that's got to be wired in. Rear deck speakers, subwoofer, JL audio, which is what we have for the amplifiers. This is the bass control for that. RCA cable for all of that. Those are for the subwoofer. Connectors. All this was provided by the owner for the stereo, including wire and all that. We have from Ron Francis, we have basically a power stud there. Bolt that to somewhere under the car, and then we can pull power from that, control it either from a battery or from a switch if we need to. Okay, then the back, this will be in the trunk. We have 2 compressors. We're running those in tandem. We have the control system from AccuAir for the airbag system, controlling these compressors. At the back here we have the backup camera. We have from the company is Digitels, which gives us our LED taillight circuits, all the controls for those, and some instructions. And once again from Ron Francis, this is a battery post, so we can hang these underneath the car or in the back bumper someplace convenient, and we'll be able to jump start or charge the battery or whatever we need to do without having to have stuff hanging out of the trunk. This is kind of the last little area, but you see there's a lot of small stuff here. Just start from the back here. So Ron Francis supplied us with positive and negative battery cables, enough to run from the trunk where we'll be mounting the battery all the way to the front. The owner, when ordering the stereo equipment, ordered power cable for his amplifiers, and those will go from the battery directly up there to the amplifiers. We have a fuse control and fuses, terminal hookup, some more fuses for that. We have a circuit breaker for the stereo system here. And then the owner chose to run the XS power battery. Which gives us top post hookup, which means we're probably going to have to get new battery cables, because I had designed the system to run off of, when I ordered all this, I had planned to run it all off of actually we may not have to, since there's not an actual top post on there. We may be able to just, yeah, that will work. So we won't have to get new battery cables, but I had planned to use a battery that had both top and side posts so that we'd have more taps, but we'll make it all work. We have a fuse holder for the system, and actually I have 2 of those because I'm probably going to run one for all the accessories and one for the engine and main control. That way we kind of split the system, because there is so much power going into this car. Ron Francis fuse for that. We have some more power taps that give us some more options. We have here a solenoid, and this is a master on-off switch. So a lot of times, like you'll see in racing, they'll have a big switch on the back of the car. They can shut the power off. This does the same thing, except that it's electric, so we can put a switch up on the center console or hide one somewhere wherever the owner wants, and that will allow us to disconnect power from the entire system. And you usually run one bypass off of this for the ECM computer, and that's about it. Everything else is tied into that. Moving up, we have some ground cabling. We have a crash protection, so this is a inertia switch, mounts in the trunk, and should you get in a wreck or whatever, the inertia switch trips and cuts off power to the fuel pump, so you don't keep pumping fuel into a potential fire. Like I said, we have grounding wire, which is just black wire marked to ground, so that you can do whatever you want with it for grounding purposes. We have grounding straps. We use that off the battery to ground to the frame or the body. We have another circuit breaker system here. Probably will be using that with some of these higher load components, like the compressors. And then this is the memory bypass. Like I was saying, when we bypass off of here, usually use this to do it, which is just a basically just a lot of wire with a external fuse, so that the computer memory will still be fused. And probably actually run it two places, one for the stereo and one for the computer. So have that one. That's just a spare power tap if we need, for the power seats or something like that. Ron Francis makes all these kits separate. So, if you're trying to work a bunch of components into a car and you don't have enough places to pull power, they've got these exterior components. This is another brass grounding bar, so we'll put one, like I said, up on the firewall. We'll put this one back here in the trunk, give us more places to ground things to. And the last major component here, which is going to play a huge part, is our Ron Francis wiring access 24/7. This is the fuse panel for the entire vehicle. So we have a fuse panel that came on the harness for the engine, and then this will take care of basically the chassis. So everything inside the car will be fused here, and this one and the engine harness will be tied together because this is basically providing power off of your key or starter or whatever. So they get tied into each other. But this one, my plan is to mount it in the trunk and kind of make it to where it's easily accessible, but not, you don't have to crawl up under the dash on a lowered car to find it. Ron Francis makes these pretty cool. It has a metal plate on the back, and they give you these big magnets, and you can actually put this anywhere. You bolt the magnets to something, and then this just magnetizes to it, so it can be hidden out of the way, and then you can pull it off the magnets and hold it in your hand, as long as you leave a little bit of pigtail so that you can see it. So this is their main component. It has access for fuel, horn, turn, relays, the flashers. It has these 4 circuits can be set to either run off ignition or off of the battery. So you can, if you want, say you want your power locks, probably run all those off the battery, but you want your power windows to run off of the ignition so that they can't be rolled down when the key's not in it. And then they have all the other circuits there, and gauges, radio, EFI, just hazard lights, running lights. Everything's fused, and all the wires labeled. So that's the major components, guys. There's probably an item or two that I've left sitting on a shelf somewhere, and I'm gonna do another search for all that just to be sure. But overall, that's probably 99% of it, and most of it will get wired through here so that we have all the power sources that we need and control over them off the ignition switch. So I wanted to show you all this stuff. Ron Francis sent all of this. Sent us a lot of clamps for running cabling or lines or brakes. You could use those clamps for anything. They sent us grommets to go through any sheet metal. This is the magnets that I was telling you about for the 24/7 fuse block, harness tape, some more grommets, heat shrink, and then this is the only one that came in a box. This is 1/4-inch braided sleeve, but they gave me probably another 100 feet of different sizes of braided sleeve. So all that will go in the car, and Scott, the owner over there, has been really good to us. This is the second car we've done with them, and actually, for those of you who remember back when I was wiring the Jeep up, a lot of the components for that came from Ron Francis wiring as well. So there we have it. It's a pretty good overview of all the components that are going into the car, all the wiring that's going to be involved, and that's just an overview. because for every item I showed you, there's 2, 3, 4, 5 wires, so every one of these has to have a wire run to that location and back. Grounds, powers, sensors, controls, all that kind of stuff. So pretty good overview though, and you can imagine all that's got to fit inside a car before we're done. So, well, I'd like to thank you for watching Allison Customs Project Car TV. See you again in a week or two. Please remember to like, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, check out our Amazon page. Remember that's that is a link that provides you kind of different tools that I'm using or components that I've used. It does not cost you anything extra when you use it, but we do make a little bit of money off the sales, so I appreciate it when you go by there and check us out. If there's certain items you'd like to see on there that you're seeing me use but you're not seeing on that page, I'll be glad to give you links or tell you where I've got them, and if they came from Amazon, I'll be glad to add them to the page. So again, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for watching Allison Customs Project Car TV. Like us on Facebook and check us out at AllisonCustomsOnline.com.